you've been doing a series of lectures, and it's been to the one audience that probably needs to hear it more than anything else because they're the ones you can still get to. These are kids. I've seen it with because you talk to middle school kids and high school kids, and please tell the people about Till Death Do Us Tweet. Till death do you tweet. Please tell people about that and what it is you do and the importance of people getting their shit together on social media.
Together. Till Death Do You Tweet. Till Death Do You Tweet is my ministry, as I like to call it. It was born out of a need to provide students with content that wouldn't put them to sleep. When I was still working at Lockheed, I've been doing Till Death Do You Tweet since I was still an engineer at Lockheed, and I would be invited into classrooms for career day by friends of mine that were educators, and because I worked in a classified environment, there just wasn't a whole lot I could say about what I did. And excuse me, and so I came up with this idea. It used to be called "What Happens on the Internet Stays on the Internet Forever" because I was playing off the little Vegas slogan. So that's what it was back then. So I kind of came up with this idea that I would talk to them about something that they actually cared about and just being responsible on social media and that whole thing. And I said, well, you know, when people would ask me to come in, I say, well, I want to talk about this. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions about what it takes to be an engineer afterwards. But, you know, I'm limited in what I can say about my actual job. So let's have this conversation. And so it just sort of evolved over time, over years. And, you know, we got into a space online where it just got really dark for young people. Kids are killing themselves, you know, behind the cyberbullying and the stuff that people are, you know, nude pictures that people are posting online and stuff like kids are literally dying because of the stuff that's being posted on social media. So it became very important to me to help them understand how to avoid that, you know, worst case consequence, basically. And so I'd say in 2012 is when I kind of put some structure around it, you know, some marketing. It became Till Death Do You Tweet, logo, marketing, monetization, that whole thing. And now, you know, I go into schools and I help students understand just how to be a better digital citizen and how to protect your brand, because that was the piece that was missing. That was the piece that I didn't have back when I was going to career days, is that understanding of personal brand.
Absolutely.
And so when I sort of keyed in on what it was that students would actually care about, because, you know, otherwise I'm just another grown-up telling them stop acting stupid on Instagram. When I finally keyed in on what they actually cared about, which is this brand, which was something they had never actually considered. Because I still walk into schools to this day and say, you know, we have this conversation about what is a brand, and they say, oh, company, Nike, Jordan, whatever. And when I say who in here thinks they're a brand, like 3 hands go up, like across the board, you know, without fail. And I'm like, well, if nobody ever told you before today, you about to learn something new, you know what I mean? Because you have a personal brand. So, you know, once you give them that ownership, everything else makes sense, you know. And so I do it for students. I have a version that I do for parents that helps them understand what their kids are doing online, how to have that conversation with them about their brand and social media responsibility, resources. And then there's TDDYT Pro, which is for professionals, because, you know, it's the grown folk out here acting just as silly as the kids. And it's like, yeah, you got a digital footprint too. And if you work, you know what I mean, you can't afford to make any of those same mistakes either. So there's 3 versions of Till Death Do You Tweet. And I'm just trying to get people to be a little bit more mindful online. That's all. Stop acting up on the internet.
Trying to get people to be smart, because, and you get them as kids, where at least if you can cut that off early, because we were talking about this before we started recording. A few years ago at the baseball All-Star game in D.C., Josh Hader, who pitches for the Milwaukee Brewers, gives up this massive home run in the All-Star game. And as he's on the mound, already kind of shook because he just gave up this home run on his first major national TV appearance, pitching in Milwaukee, because the Brewers weren't that big time of a team at the time. Somebody goes on Twitter and starts slowly running down his Twitter feed back to when he was a teenager. because now we're at that point where these guys are 22, 23, 24 years old. Twitter's been around since 2008. That's 12 years ago. So they hopped on there 12, 13, 14 years old and said some really, really stupid things. And a lot of the stupid, I think it was a lot of racist things that he said got blown up. And, people will quote tweet stuff or they will screenshot it. And so before he's off the mound and into the clubhouse, this thing has gone nuts on Twitter to where I think his mom or his brother hands him a phone and is like, bro, you got to see this.
You in trouble. And that's the thing. And that's what this is intended to do, to try to head that off at the pass, if you will. I mean, I get students all the time that hit me in my DMs. And I saved a tweet from a student that she said, learned about my brand from Tech Life stuff, and 4 years later, I'm finally proud of it. Like, that's the kind of impact I want to have. I mean, kids hit me all the time. I changed all of my social because you said I need to think about my brand. Can you go and look at my new bio or, see if this username is, or so. It's like they get it. And especially now in this time of influencers being a thing, cancel culture being a thing, they understand that, it's important to sort of make sure that the stuff that you're putting out there is going to be something that can stand the test of time. So it's been great. It's been a labor of love. It's been wonderful to see the messaging sink in with young people, because with the grown folk, I think it's still a little bit like it's just Twitter. But it's been great to see the messaging sink in. And honestly, it does boil down to something as simple as, if I'm saving one life. That's how seriously I take it. And if I'm saving one life because one kid decides not to post something, horrible about someone else because something could happen, or, or you see it and you don't comment. So now that person being bullied doesn't have to see that one more comment on top of the 100 others that they've been getting all day. Then I did my job.
You don't have to add to the noise. For your dream job, for that dream school, for that dream opportunity, are you prepared to pull out your phone right now and show somebody your feed on demand as a condition of getting that opportunity?
Because that is a theme I notice in the videos that I've seen, is that you're not just simply doing this just to teach them how to cover their ass 5 years down the line. You want to keep them alive, because there are kids being bullied. There are gay kids being outed on Twitter and being mocked and made fun of. Black kids being racially harassed. Women, young girls being harassed and shamed, and all this other nonsense. That's a way to really you are helping a whole lot of people. And I noticed that just from what I saw for the videos and the stuff you do, that's what jumped out to me the most, is how serious this is for you. This is not just a branding opportunity. Ironically, this is not just a branding opportunity for you. This is very, very real.
Absolutely not. And I've done workshops with kids where I didn't have to stay, but I stayed, 45 minutes afterwards, because there's 20 kids around me and the girl in front of me is in tears because she can't take it anymore, because she told her teacher that they won't stop posting, and she told her parents, and everybody is parents tend to think that it's not that big a deal, and that everybody gets bullied. Everybody, grow up, get a thick skin, toughen up. And it's not the same. It's not the same as when you had that one bully at school that didn't like you, and maybe in the lunchroom, they might push you or take your lunch money or whatever. And then you get to go home and you didn't have to deal with it again until the next day. And maybe not even until, the next week or whatever, because you didn't even see them. But with cyberbullying, it's relentless. Like, they're getting this all day long. And, parents, unfortunately, letting their kids sleep in their rooms with their phones. So now you're getting notifications at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and the pings and the pings and the pings. And you're fat, you're ugly, you should just kill yourself. We hate you. Nobody likes you. And this is happening all day, constantly. So now your kid hasn't slept. They're not eating. They're internalizing every single one of these messages. Maybe they did something unfortunate where they sent a picture to somebody. Now a nude picture of them or a topless picture of them is out there as well. So now you have that shame and stress and trauma attached to it. And it's relentless. It's relentless. There is no situation where they can get away from it, because now it's online, but now everybody knows it in real life too. So now you got to go to school. Everybody in school knows. Even the adults know. Everybody knows. And some kids just don't have the tools to process and deal with that in a healthy way, and they take that extreme option and look at suicide as a way to end all of it. So it's not, we got to understand that it's not the same type of, it's the same motivation, because kids are kids, but with these new tools, it's a different type of ball game, and it can get very, very mean and cruel and insidious, and we just have to do a better job as adults taking it more seriously.
You made a great point there that, unlike when we were in high school or whatever, we were in middle school, if you had to deal with somebody's shit, you're only dealing with it from 8 o'clock to 3. Maybe if you played a sport with them, you might have had to tolerate it or put up with it in practice or something like that. And you did, and I still hear it from friends of mine or parents, or it's like, oh, they should just toughen up. Back in our day, in our day, we stood up to the bully. We
fought it out, and then you were done with it. You know what I mean? You fought, you shook hands, and then you were done. It's not the same.